Welcome to Camp Constitution Radio. I am your host, Hal Shurtleff, and this show can be heard on WBCQ The Planet every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a couple of guests on our show today. But before I get to our guest, I do want to urge all of you that are listening that live in the United States. Tomorrow, Congress is voting, the House of Representatives is voting on a couple of trade agreements or potential trade agreements, the transatlantic partnerships. Please call your member of Congress as soon as you can and ask him or her to vote no against Obama trade. I did a show on it maybe a month or so ago, and how bad this is. It's so bad that right now it's being negotiated in secret, these all-encompassing trade agreements that have a little to do with trade, but more to do with creating a global government. So again, folks, you need to get onto the phone here. And this issue, by the way, it's not just a left-right issue. You got many Democrats who are opposing it, and you have many Republicans that are pushing it. So anyway, we want you to definitely get on that. We need to stop it. I think we have a very good chance. Camp Constitution Radio is sponsored by Camp Constitution, and if you've listened to this show, you know that we run a family camp, which is coming up in less than a month, July 12th to 19th, in the beautiful Toanippi Christian Retreat Center in Ringe, New Hampshire. And if you'd like to learn more about the camp, it's not too late to sign up. We have a space available, www.campconstitution.net. And you can see some of the things that we do at the camp, the classes, the field trips. This year we're taking a field trip to the Tea Party Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. And this will be, I think, our first time we've done this. Last year we took a trip to Old Ironsides and the Bunker Hill Monument. And that would be on a Wednesday. And we have some great instructors, including two of them that should be calling in a few minutes, Tom Moor and Dan McGonigle. But we also have the Patriot Pastor, Garrett Lear, who will be there for a few days, Thursday and Friday at camp. We have Tom DeWeese of the American Policy Center. We're really excited about having Tom. Tom is probably the foremost expert on Agenda 21, and he'll be discussing that. We also have Chris Ann Hall, and Chris Ann will be speaking on the Constitution and a few other issues. And in addition to the field trip and the classes, we'll be taking an optional hike on Mount Monadnock, swimming, hiking, volleyball, foosball, and all kinds of great things. So, again, campconstitution.net. Now, last week we did a show with Alex Newman, who is the co-author of Crimes of the Educators, with Sam Blumenfeld, who passed away last week, actually 2 weeks ago. But the book is doing very, very well, and I'm sort of halfway through it. And although I was familiar with a lot of the things in the book, I always learned something new. And there was a chapter in the book that dealt with the Miller test. And let me see here if I can find what. By Edward Miller, it was page 73. Edward Miller proved the sight method causes dyslexia. Now, Sam bequeathed his material to me, his books and writings, and there was 200 or so boxes of lots of books and some of his writings and research from other people. And there was a box about the Miller test, which I was not familiar with at all until I read this chapter. Well, Mr. Miller was a very bright man. He since passed away. I think he passed away in 2010. But he was but he had dyslexia. He had to rely on his incredible memory to get ahead, and he was very frustrated with what was happening. He claimed that he had dyslexia before he actually went to school, and he couldn't figure out why. He heard Sam Blumenfeld give a speech in the early, probably in the 1980s, and he ended up discovering what happened, and he actually helped Sam in Sam's research. Mr. Miller was able to discover that why he came to school dyslexic. Now, Sam Blumenfeld has rightfully contended that it's the look-say method of reading that causes dyslexia, that it's not, and it causes ADD and many, many other issues that are relatively new ailments, and all the millions of school children every day that are taking these psychotropic drugs that as a result of this dyslexia. So Sam couldn't answer the question why Mr. Miller came to school already dyslexic, and then he figured out for himself. He looked at the types of books his parents would read to him, and they were whole language type books. So even before he went to school, he had a reading disability, and I'm sure his parents had the best of intentions reading these things to them. And downstairs, I have a whole file about this man's research, and he created something called the Miller test. And he started doing these tests in elementary schools and a public school, and then he did one in a Christian school. And he discovered that from 4th grade to 6th grade, the reading of the whole language readers got worse. You could only memorize so many sight words, and then your reading skills go down. So there's a chapter in this book that I'd recommend. Okay, who else we got on here? Dan?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Dan. Hey, just to introduce Dan McGonigle. I think I've got someone else calling in a few minutes there, Tom Moor. But Dan is, he's one of our Camp Constitution instructors. He is also the author of Execute the Laws to Restore the Republic. And when I was picking up my New American magazine, recently I noticed there was a little article. So, Dan, I want you to kind of update us. You've been a guest on the show before, and you and I work closely on many issues. Give us a little update about some of this legislation that's being popped up in a couple of states.
What was that? Was it the New American article that you referred to?
Yes, it was a short article about the states that was Texas, New Hampshire, and you mentioned Texas also dealing with. Okay. Yeah, so just pick that up and go into a little bit if you could.
You got a lead copy. You through your position, you were able to have a lead copy, and the title of that, it's a half-a-page article. New Hampshire to consider making gold and silver currency, and in the New American, coming up June 22nd, hard copy, and everybody's subscription. Now that the title, people maybe get confused by the title of that. It doesn't mean that New Hampshire is going to coin their own money, which states cannot do. It means that when you read the title, consider making gold and silver currency. It's not making the currency. It's using. It would be better for maybe other ways phrased as consider using gold and silver as currency.
Right, so under the Constitution, that states. Right. Under the U.S. Constitution, states are supposed to pay gold and silver, but also states cannot mint their own money. That's forbidden under the Constitution as well. Yes.
Right. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1.
No
state Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, confederation, grant letters of marque, and reprisal, coin money. So no state shall coin money. No state shall admit bills of credit. But then it says no state shall make anything but. No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender and payment of debts. Debts being, a definition of debts being any transaction where there's an exchange of money for services. So that article in the New American, it doesn't mean New Hampshire is going to coin money. It means New Hampshire is going to use gold and silver, would use gold and silver currency as is required in state government transactions, according to the U.S. Constitution.
Right. So it's something that they're looking into. It's not something that's going to happen. It's something that a bill was introduced.
Right. It's hard to read because it's a photograph and it's at an angle. It's hard to read. I'll read it when I get it in the mail. But I'm assuming that there's a bill under consideration.
Right.
I'm assuming if you've read it, I'm assuming that's what they're talking about.
And I think it was Edwin Vieira was the man who sort of motivated this. And I think you know a little bit about Edwin Vieira, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, I do. And, I think Edwin's name is mentioned. I'm able to see that Edwin's name is mentioned in that New American article coming up. And he is also mentioned in the articles about the Texas bill that is now law. And I know Edwin. I first heard him give a speech at Historic Faneuil Hall in Boston in December 2008. And his talk was about the powers of the purse and the sword. Now, what we're talking about the last few minutes, we're talking about the power of the purse. And ever since that speech, I decided I wanted to focus on the power of the sword, and I've written one book that you mentioned before, and that's what that book is. My Execute the Laws book is regarding. And
by the way, that book, you can get that book through Camp Constitution bookstore on our website, campconstitution.net. Yeah. And anyway, I want to Tom Moor. I guess you just called in.
Yes. Hi, Al. Hi, Dan.
Well, Tom, I got Dan. So I got two of our great instructors out. Tom is a historian. I think he would probably specialize in New England history, or at least Greater Boston history. And yesterday, Camp Constitution had I guess the word float isn't the right word, but we had a presence at the annual Flag Day Parade in Dedham, Massachusetts, which is a town just outside of Boston. And Dan was in it a few years ago, walked the distance. But Tom drove, and I had a couple of my children, a few of their friends, and we did something rather subversive. We passed out constitutions to many of the attendees. I guess we had about 500. We ran out of them, so if we could have used another 1,000 probably. Although sometimes you want to give it to people who seem to who care, not just anybody there. And we also gave out brochures, about 800 of them for Camp Constitution, a little promotional pamphlet that we have. And during the parade, as I'm giving them out, mostly to young teenagers and people, express an interest, I would ask the question. It's a very simple question. What are the first 10 amendments known? What are they known as? And very few people. I got a few people that knew. One young man, probably about 13 or 14, looked at me and said, "The Bill of Rights." And I said to him, "What's your name?" And he told me his name. I said, "You call the number on this pamphlet. You tell me your name. You tell him that Hal spoke to you at the parade and offered you a free week at Camp Constitution because you're the first person that got it right." And why don't they know something this simple? We know the answer, Tom. They don't teach
Hal,
this stuff.
it's interesting you should say that, and it is distressing that the schools are no longer teaching our founding documents, but it's even more distressing that our elected leaders, like recently John Boehner, confused the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. They don't know the difference of those two documents. They think they're the same thing. And at the same time, right as we speak, this is Monday, June 15th, 2015. They are looking to ram this trade deal. It's called the TPP, and now they've got different names for it because the regular TPP was defeated, so now they're calling it TAA or TPA. But any way you cut it, it's like an extension of NAFTA and GATT on steroids.
Exactly.
And they're going to further erode our national sovereignty. And then after they've done that, I guess they're these European oligarchs, and they just met in Europe at the Bilderberg conference, and they are just basically planning to divide and conquer America once more. But you're right; it starts with our children, and once people know what they've got in these documents, they're not going to be so concerned whether LeBron James had a weak fourth quarter last night in the NBA Finals.
That's correct. And we contend that just like in the book Crimes of the Educators, that the American children are being dumbed down deliberately. This is the reason why people are more interested in sporting events or the headlines, the celebrity issues, than they are their own Constitution. And by the way, I mentioned when the show first began that if you live in the United States, tomorrow Congress will be voting on, the House of Representatives voting on these free trade alphabet soups, TAP, TA, whatever they're calling them today. Call your House of Representatives member today and say, vote no.
Yeah.
And so definitely vote no. So
even though Hal, they've got a lot of money, and a lot of sweetheart deals like they always do with these nasty omnibus type of bills. At the end of the day, these guys want to get reelected. And our Congressman, Steve Lynch, I don't know, is that your congressman too, Dan? But anyway, Steve Lynch is a halfway reasonable guy, but he needs a little prodding. They need to be pushed in the right direction. They can't make the right direction on their own, so we have to call them when these things come up.
Well, Steve Lynch represents a district that covers most of Boston and some of the suburbs of Boston. I think it's the 10th district. And he's a Democrat, and there are many Democrats that what happened with NAFTA and these other bills that they try to get the votes. They realize they don't have enough, so they start appealing to these people. Well, look, if you vote this way, we will guarantee you, we'll support this bill or this bill. They basically buy the vote with our money. That's what they do, with taxpayers' money. So it's very, very important that you make these calls. Now, interesting that when the parade ended, and we were out of constitutions. I know you and I had a conversation. They say how needed our mission, our camp constitution is, and people will say they ought to teach this. They should teach this in the schools. They don't do it anymore. Well, if they taught it in the schools, if the teachers who have a socialist perspective teach the Constitution, they're going to teach a wrong perspective on the Constitution. They're going to tell you it's a product of dead white Eurocentric males, and that it has no validity. So that's the unfortunate thing. But there's nothing stopping the average American who understands a little bit about the Constitution to do it themselves. We don't have to rely on the government. We never should rely on the government to teach children what they should know. And so it's up to people like us in the Camp Constitution. This is an all-volunteer association. We take time out of our schedules, take a vacation week to spend a week at camp and many other activities in the course of the year, this radio show. It's all because volunteers care. And if you're listening to this show and you're saying, gee, what can I do about it? Well, help us. You can participate. You can organize events, Camp Constitution-sponsored events wherever you are, or you can do it on your own. You can go to the National Center for Constitutional Studies. You can order, 1,000 for $250. I think 100 for $30, and then you can learn about it. And there's all kinds of great programs out there that teach the sound principles of the Constitution. There's one called by Robert Brown, The Constitution is the Solution. You can get that through shopjbs.org, and it's I think it's six series set. You can present this. You have a study guide. John Eidsmoe, who's the constitutional attorney, has done one in the past, and it's excellent. It has a strong Christian perspective to it, which I have no trouble with. So there's all kinds of good things out there.
Yeah, there is. Hal, might I say, the Constitution is the solution, and is Dan still there?
Of course, isn't it?
Yep.
Dan, yeah, so maybe you want to talk about how you guys have fought the con with that slogan that the Constitution is the solution. You guys have done a lion's job, roaring all around the state houses of New England, And that's another thing we have to stop, is this thing called the Constitutional Convention, because it's being wrongly taught that that is the solution versus the Constitution itself to change it.
That's right. Well, Dan and I, it was a couple of years ago, we were visiting state houses with people.
Let Dan talk now and then.
Oh, well, Dan got it, but I'm setting the stage for Dan. So,
all righty.
So yeah, Dan and I visited. We had press conferences, and we we distributed information. In fact, Dan was in Maine with me about a month and a half ago, and I had a busy schedule visiting folks. And I said, Dan, stay at the State House for the day. And so I'm going to throw it right back to Dan, and he can say what he did at the State House.
Was that the time we get the state rep to sponsor the?
That's correct.
Distribution.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I accidentally bumped into a state rep who I didn't know up there in Maine, and or down Maine, as they say.
Down east, yes.
She was politically aligned with us, and right off the bat let me know that, and that she said she offered to sign off so the literature could be distributed to the entire House of Representatives, which is required in Maine for distributing literature inside the State House. For the House, for the Senate, you can just drop it off in their box.
Right.
But what's interesting that goes along with my scholarship that I'm working on is that virtually every article in New American Magazine, when they talk about Article 5, the last paragraph or the subtitle of the article, it talks about enforcing the Constitution being the answer versus changing the Constitution. And I say the same thing. I say, there are constitutional state institutions that have been disbanded 100 years ago that, if they were revitalized, would have the power to enforce the Constitution, where we, the people, would fully participate in that. So,
and you're talking about the constitutional state militias, more specifically.
Correct. That's correct.
Right. And on that topic, I have a little something. So, in 2 days now, it's going to be the anniversary, the 240th anniversary of the Battle of Bunker Hill. And we took Camp Constitution, went on our field trip last year to see the ship, the USS Constitution, which lies at the foot of Bunker Hill, and then we went up Bunker Hill for the field trip there, where Mr. Shurtleff and my ancestor fought shoulder to shoulder. And now, 240 years later, what happens is they have an active serving British general come over and lay a wreath, and they fly the Union Jack flag. Well, that's actually at rest inside the monument at the same height as the American flag. And basically the presentation presents the entire American Revolution as just a big misunderstanding with Great Britain and no more than that. And I don't know, maybe Dan could speak a little bit about how effectively the militias fought on that day, June 17th, 1775.
Okay, sure. Hal, how much time do we have?
We've got 6 minutes.
Okay. Well, the Battle of Bunker Hill, George Washington had just been appointed as the top general by Continental Congress, but he was still in Philadelphia, and he arrived at in Boston a couple of weeks after the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Actually, I think it was July 4th, 1775, I believe.
Okay. And so what they had, who fought? The question then presents itself, okay, who fought at Bunker Hill? Who defended Charlestown across the Charles River from Boston, from the attack by the British Navy and both the Navy and the Army? And it was militia, and it was also, they had formed what was called the Massachusetts Army. And there were enlisted men taken from militia who volunteered to enlist in the Massachusetts Army, and there were also militia from all around New England participated in that battle.
I'm just going to cut in really briefly. I'm a descendant of direct descendant of Daniel Moor, who fought with the New Hampshire militia under John Live Free or Die Stark. And the New Hampshire boys, even though New Hampshire was just a very small state in terms of population compared to its neighbors, Massachusetts and Connecticut, those Scots-Irish of New Hampshire outnumbered the combined militias, the fighting militias of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and that's a point of pride for the state of New Hampshire, which is also where we have our camp. Okay, Dan, I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, that's good. That's good. And also, in a couple of days, I'm going to be at a church service early in the morning on Wednesday, the 17th, right next to the Bunker Hill Monument. And one of our other Camp Constitution instructors, Patriot Pastor Garrett Lear, is going to be one of the speakers at the ceremony on Wednesday.
Wow.
And, yeah. So I had inquired about it on Facebook. Garrett had posted some things about they just had a ceremony the other day at the Granary Burial where James Otis and Samuel Adams are buried. And I posted that I wish I knew about it ahead of time. And then Garrett let me know that he had posted the entire schedule and with all his various speakers for Wednesday. He posted it on his profile page, his Facebook page, and he's one of the top speakers that are going to be there.
Great,
excellent. Okay, well, we got a few minutes left here, and I just want to encourage folks to look into Camp Constitution. Visit our what's that? .net. That's correct. Visit our website, and you will find classes for the last. I think we started doing it in 2010. The first year we had a guy did a video some videotaping, but he had some kind of glitches, so we couldn't get to any of them upload. But since 2010, we've been uploading most of the classes, and I'm sure you'll find Tom Moor's classes. He did one on the Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. In fact, Tom, you did a class on the bus heading into Boston last year. I wish we taped that about the story of Bunker Hill and Old Ironsides.
Yeah, Dan and I are doing a similar one on the Tea Party, heading into the Tea Party Museum this year. That's our field trip for this year.
Well, we're gonna have to tape that too, because I think it was very well done. Even if the bus bounced around a little bit, we'll allow for that. And also classes, various classes that we've done are uploaded there, and it's our job to. And if you like what you see, you'll watch the programs. Just forward them along, copy and paste, get the word out. Because it's not just what we do at that 1 week. We like to think that, we may have 100, 120 people at camp, but we have potential thousands because they're able to see what we do there. So it goes well beyond the confines of Camp Constitution at Tawanipi. It goes around the country and around the world. And we like to start up more of these camps, and the only way we do this is with your help, listener. You can help us by going to our website, and there's a place where you can make a donation, a PayPal donation, and send us a message. Yeah, I'd like to help out. Maybe we can do a camp here. It doesn't have to be a camp that's run by Camp Constitution, but we'll be happy to help you get something like what we have started. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you both for being on the show, and this show is aired every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WBCQ The Planet, which is a shortwave station, and also on YouTube. You can find our various radio shows archived on YouTube, the Camp Constitution's YouTube channel. So thanks for listening, and guys, thanks for calling in. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
All right.